Hey guys, it's Liam here and welcome back to another transfer news roundup. I've been on holiday for the last few days, which means I've missed quite a few transfers. And I was originally planning on not making a video and just going on with my day, just out of sheer laziness. But with A-level results day being tomorrow and it was starting to freak me out slightly, so I decided to make this video as a way of getting my mind off of it. Oh, and I'm also recording this during a solar eclipse, which is why the lights are on. And also because apparently one thing to worry about right now wasn't enough. So today I'm basically going over all of the transfers I've missed since I've been away, including Chelsea's multiple moves, a massive Arsenal signing and its repercussions, a strange Liverpool signing, and Romelu Lukaku going to Turkey. So yeah, there is quite a lot to get through. So let's get into it. We shall start with Chelsea, because after being away for a few days, I came back to discover that Chelsea have actually completed a new signing. It is confirmed that Chelsea have signed Pep Chavarría from Rayo Vallecano. The 28-year-old left-back joins for €19 million plus €2 million in add-ons, and he has signed a 5-year contract with the Blues. Honestly, this is probably going to be one of those transfers where Chelsea fans are going to need about 3 weeks to get used to the name. Because every time I say, the name Pep, it feels weird because Man City have just let go of Pep and now Chelsea have just signed one. It's weird, but it's a signing that does make sense from Chelsea's perspective. Marc Cucurella has established himself as the first choice left back, but with him going to Real Madrid, Chelsea now need more than just João Hato in that position. So Chavarría will be a good option, especially as a wing back. Now Chelsea fans just need to hope that they can sell some players, and that is starting with Tosin Adarabioyo, who is attracting interest from Benfica and a number of other Premier League clubs. Benfica are also in talks with Southampton over Taylor Harwood-Bellis as another option. So it looks like Benfica are basically shopping around for another centre-back and have decided to check the entire Premier League catalogue. Which is fair enough, and I also reckon that Tosin would be an excellent addition for Benfica, mainly because Portugal is a very nice place to live, and also Marco Silva has worked with Tosin at Fulham, so he'd know what he's working with. Just please buy him. But Tosin isn't the only Chelsea defender attracting interest. Napoli are expected to advance for Badiashile, with negotiations already underway with Chelsea. An initial loan deal has been discussed for Badiashile, and I think this is quite an interesting one, because Badiashile arrived at Chelsea with plenty of expectations, but things have not gone according to plan at all, and I genuinely don't remember the last good game he had, if that was ever. Now, Napoli could potentially give him the opportunity to get regular football and rebuild some momentum. Almost like McTominay at Man United. But while Chelsea are potentially losing defenders, they could also be about to lose one of their biggest midfielders, because Manchester City are interested in signing Enzo Fernández. This could be a signing that could be absolutely massive, and Man City have already made contact with Enzo Fernández's camp, and now the situation depends on Chelsea's valuation. Chelsea are asking for £120 million, and they would also be happy to keep Enzo, and I hope they do, but Manchester City are also hoping they can negotiate that price, as Enzo Maresca would love to reunite with Enzo Fernández at Man City. Apparently, this has been the case since the beginning of the window, even before the recent Rodri to Barcelona situation. So, imagine this. Chelsea's former manager is now trying to sign one of Chelsea's best players to replace or potentially cover for a literal Ballon d'Or winner who could be leaving Man City. The only problem with this is Enzo Fernández does not play in the same position as Rodri does, so I'm not sure how that would work even if Rodri went to Barcelona and Man City signed Enzo. But despite all this speculation, Enzo was actually seen at Chelsea training today, so for now, he is still a Chelsea player, and Chelsea's position is very clear that they want £120 million and they're not budging on that price. So if City don't want to pay that, Chelsea are more than happy to keep him. Which brings us nicely to another Chelsea player Manchester City apparently like, because Manchester City are also potentially interested in signing Pedro Neto. Wow, Enzo Maresca is looking to do the Ten Hag thing, basically just buy all your former players. I'm not complaining, to be honest. I want Pedro Neto out of the club. Chelsea are currently asking for £70 million for the Portuguese winger, and they have no plans to reduce their asking price. And if £70 million wasn't enough, Man City also would like to buy Malo Gusto. And the situation with Gusto has been the same as it has been since June, and is the same as Neto. An exit's possible, but Chelsea value him at around £75 million, and they're not budging on that price. So, despite not wanting to pay the fee, if Man City actually want to get the player, well, they're going to need to do something. Because they've basically walked into Chelsea's shop, looked at the price tags and gone, yeah, I think we'll come back later. While Chelsea are still standing there going, you can, but the price isn't changing, mate. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see whether City actually make a move for either players. But while City are looking at Chelsea players, Chelsea have already completed another big sale, as Trevoh Chalobah has officially joined Como from Chelsea. The deal is worth around €30 million with another €6 million in add-ons, plus a sell-on clause. Chalobah will sign a 5-year deal with the Serie A side. Honestly, I think I speak for all Chelsea fans when I say this is a sad moment. Not really a moment. It's the fact he's leaving is sad, put it that way. Chalobah is a player who came to the academy, became a part of the first team squads, and had some really good moments in the Chelsea shirt. And now, well, his career's over. So, it's a sad one, and I reckon he will be missed. But if we move over to Chelsea goalkeepers now, and Philip Jorgensen's also leaving, as he's joining Strasbourg on a straight loan, with no buy option included in the deal. So it is nice to know when Chelsea can't seem to find a move for players that they don't want, they can just sell them to their sister club. But now we move on to one of the biggest Premier League transfers that have happened in the last week. Bruno Guimarães has joined Arsenal from Newcastle for £75 million, and he has signed a 5-year contract. Honestly, Arsenal fans should be pretty happy with this one. Guimarães is already Premier League proven, he's a Brazilian international, and exactly the sort of midfielder who can add quality and aggression to Arsenal's midfield. He's also another Brazilian you don't want taking penalties. Aside from that, it is a really big transfer, and it's actually having pretty interesting repercussions involving Arsenal's young stars. This is because Myles Lewis-Skelly has been offered to Chelsea by Arsenal. I mentioned it in a short yesterday, but if you haven't watched it, basically, Football London's Bobby Vincent reported that Myles Lewis-Skelly has been offered to Chelsea following Arsenal signing of Bruno Guimarães. The 19-year-old had reportedly been offered to Chelsea, with the Blues having had a long-term interest in him, and Chelsea weren't apparently the only club being offered him, with Manchester United also reportedly being offered Lewis-Skelly. And that's fair, and you need more than Luke Shaw at left back, to be honest. At the time, there was no indication whether Chelsea would actually make a move, but it was reported that if Chelsea made a good enough offer, Arsenal would likely accept it. Personally, I wouldn't have hated this. Let's not forget that he has already been called up to the England squad by Thomas Tuchel, and he is still only 19. But there was one pretty obvious problem. We don't really need another left back. We already have Hato, and then Pep Chavarría just signed his Chelsea contract. So realistically, I could only see Chelsea making a move for Lewis-Skelly if we suddenly had an injury crisis at left back. Which is why later that same day, Chelsea rejected the opportunity to sign him. The reason is Arsenal reportedly valued Lewis-Skelly at around £45 million, and Chelsea have probably already spent a bit too much this summer, so they weren't willing to explore the option. So unfortunately for anyone hoping to see an Arsenal player turn up at Stamford Bridge, it's not happening. Maybe for the best. We already have Hato and Chavarría, we don't need another left back, even if we could have maybe turned him into the next Ashley Cole. Although, I did have one idea yesterday. It was a swap deal. We get Lewis-Skelly, Arsenal get Pedro Neto, because Arsenal were already looking at Pedro Neto. I think that's a great deal, so I would happily take Lewis-Skelly if Arsenal take Neto. But I don't think Arsenal are watching my videos for transfer strategy advice. Unfortunately. But there is another Arsenal story worth talking about, because while they're bringing in Bruno Guimarães, they also could be about to lose one of their attackers. Galatasaray have submitted a €45 million offer for Gabriel Martinelli. This was actually quite surprising news for me, because I've always thought that Martinelli was one of Arteta's main players. He always got regular minutes, he was always... I was going to say he was always decent, but I've always thought he wasn't, so I'm not going to continue there. Anyway, the offer is now on Arsenal's table, with Martinelli currently being Galatasaray's top transfer priority. And if he does go to Galatasaray, when he plays Besiktas, there'll be quite an interesting reunion with Leandro Trossard. But it is a really interesting situation, because Arsenal have just added Bruno Guimarães to their squads, and they could potentially be losing Martinelli at the same time. and also 45 million euros is certainly not a tiny offer. So yeah, while Martinelli has been an important player for Arsenal since breaking into their first team, it could be a pretty significant departure if he does actually leave. So that does make Arsenal's transfer window very interesting, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. But Arsenal aren't the only Premier League club making moves. Aston Villa have reached a verbal agreement to sign Matteo Ruggeri from Atletico Madrid. The deal is worth around 25 million euros with an extra 2 million euros in add-ons. Apparently Ruggeri has already agreed to his personal terms, and he is expected to travel for his medical this week, assuming all documents are approved. So that one looks very close. And Ipswich Town have also reached an agreement in principle to sign Julio Enciso from Strasbourg, and they've also signed Sasa Lukic from Fulham for around £9 million. The Serbia international is set to sign a 4-year contract. So Ipswich are certainly not sitting around waiting for deadline day. And another Premier League club making moves is Crystal Palace, as not only have they agreed a swap deal with Everton, as they send Brennan Johnson to Everton and Dwight McNeil comes to Palace, but Evan Gesson is set to rejoin Crystal Palace from Aston Villa on a season-long loan. And this deal does include a buy option, so whether Palace actually take the buy option this time, we'll see. Meanwhile, Nottingham Forest have announced the signing of Ousmane Diomande from Sporting. The deal is being finalised at around 40 million euros, with the Ivory Coast International signing a 5-year contract. But that's all the smaller Premier League club news, so now we have to move back to Manchester City, as they have signed Geronimo Rulli from Marseille on a 2-year contract. He is joining following the departure of James Trafford to Leeds, with the fee understood to be around 2 million euros for the 34-year-old keeper. But Man City aren't finished there, as they've also agreed with Sheffield United for another loan deal for Calvin Phillips. I'm genuinely surprised they haven't sold him on a permanent loan deal yet, and I'm starting to think he's gone to more clubs than I have pairs of socks. But while Man City are moving players around, they're also potentially about to lose one of their biggest stars. I did allude to this before, but Barcelona have been interested in Rodri for some time now, and now they have improved their proposal to around £55 million. Talks are continuing with Manchester City, and this is obviously one to watch because Rodri is one of the most important players in this Man City team, so Barcelona getting him would be a massive statement. And if Rodri does leave, well, that could potentially give Man City a greater interest in Enzo Fernández. And speaking of Barcelona, Ronald Araújo has joined Liverpool on loan from Barcelona. This is a deal that includes a €55 million buy option if Liverpool want to sign him at the end of the season. This is another huge and slightly strange move, in my opinion. Araújo has been one of Barcelona's key defenders, so seeing him leave is pretty significant. Also, significantly strengthens Barcelona, in my opinion. He's not been great. I still remember he got sent off against Chelsea in the Champions League last season. Anyway, Liverpool getting him gives them another serious defensive option and a replacement for Konate. I reckon he'll probably be about as good as 25-26 Konate, but we'll see what happens. But we're not finished there, as there could be a sort of transfer cycle involving Barcelona, as Paris Saint-Germain are close to reaching an agreement with Barcelona for Ferran Torres. Talks are ongoing with only a small gap in the price, but the deal is expected to be finalised this week. And apparently all parties have decided that the 26-year-old should not resume training with Barcelona as the transfer to PSG gets closer. So it sounds like this is a transfer that's very close to being done. And this could also most likely push Bradley Barcola out the door, I imagine, to Liverpool. So that'll be interesting. But that's not the only signing PSG have completed in the past week, as PSG have agreed to sign Zion Suzuki from Parma. The Japanese goalkeeper is joining for a package worth around €35 million. But PSG are considering sending him out on loan so he can play regularly. If he is to be sent out on loan, I expect the destination will be Juventus, but they're expected to make a decision soon. But PSG aren't finished, as they're also planning to return to talks for Mika Götze after the Super Cup, which happens tonight actually. What's the score? Is it 1-1? Oh, it's 2-1. Yeah, that was kind of expected. Anyway, Ajax are expecting a new proposal to arrive, with Götze already saying yes to the PSG project. I'm sure there'll be more to come there, but we'll leave France for a second because we've got some absolute madness coming from Italy. As the deal for Djed Spence to Inter Milan is locked and loaded, here we go. A verbal agreement is now in place with Tottenham for the England right-back. The transfer fee is worth around €31 million, and Spence has already agreed to personal terms. He has apparently wanted the move for several days, so this one looks like it's finally happening. And after signing John Stones, it's interesting to see Inter have signed another English player, but it turns out they're also still interested in another English player, as Inter have maintained Curtis Jones as a priority target since May. They now feel a deal could happen with Liverpool for around €35 million. However, there's currently no green light for a new bid until Davide Fratese's exit is sorted. But Inter definitely intend to try again for Jones before the window closes. And speaking of Fratesi, Lazio have reached a verbal agreement with Inter for Fratesi. It's a €1 million loan fee with a €14 million buy option, which will become mandatory under certain conditions. There is also a sell-on clause for Inter. So basically, Inter are trying to sell one midfielder so they can go and buy a Premier League midfielder. You genuinely can't make this stuff up in transfer windows. And now we've got another here we go, as Dusan Vlahovic is joining Besiktas. After leaving Juventus in January, the verbal agreement is now in place for the Serbian striker. His medical is set to follow, with Besiktas planning his travel today, and he will sign a 4-year contract. But he's not the only striker to be moving to Turkey, as a former Chelsea striker is also on the move. As Romelu Lukaku has joined Fenerbahçe from Napoli on a 1-year contract for a fee in excess of €6 million. I think every Chelsea fan watching this is going to have the same reaction, because of course Lukaku signed for Chelsea in the summer of 2021, and then gave that infamous interview where he spoke about not wanting to be at Chelsea and wanting to move back to Inter. So I'm sure Chelsea fans will now be rushing to support the rivals of Fenerbahçe. Given Didier Drogba played for Galatasaray, I think that will help things. Moving back to England, and Lucas Harrington has completed his medical as a new Hull City player from Colorado Rapids. The deal is worth $15 million with another $5 million in add-ons and a 15% sell-on clause. The 18-year-old will join immediately, and Hull have also signed Noble Mendy from Rayo Vallecano. That deal is worth €25 million plus a 12.5% sell-on clause, while Real Betis received 20% of the deal as, well, a sell-on clause. Mendy has also signed a 5-year contract. This shows that Hull are clearly not messing around and they want to actually get good deals in to hopefully stay up. I don't reckon they will, spoiler alert, but getting Harrington's a good start. But it also looks like Rayo Vallecano will lose 2 key players, so that's a bit unfortunate. And that brings us to the end of the biggest stories I've missed over the last few days. There has been so much going on over the last few days, and considering I've been on holiday, I think I've just about managed to catch up with everything. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Which transfer do you think is the biggest story? And especially for Chelsea fans, would you sell Enzo Fernández for £120 million or would you keep him? Personally, I'd keep him, but I'm curious to see your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe because it really does help out the channel. We just got to 500 subscribers. Please can we get to 1,000 very quickly. Anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.